Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mrs. Balicki's Basement. I'm glad you're here for an introductory session on phonemic awareness and how you can use something called Elkonin boxes to practice segmenting and blending words, breaking them apart between their different sounds, and then blending them together so you can hear the whole word all together at once. This is an evidence-based practice that is known to improve reading skills in students, and it is the #1 thing that we can work on to develop great reading habits at an early age. I'm going to walk you through some different leveled activities, something I'll call level 1, level 2, and level 3, to show you how you can use oral language and phonemic awareness to practice segmenting and blending words, no matter what your skill set or age is. To start, you're going to see me moving back and forth because I've got my iPhone actually set up as a handy document camera, so you can see what I'm doing and how I'm explaining things. So to start off, our Elkonin boxes at level 1, we are going to bounce between words that have 2 sounds per word and 3 sounds per word. This is a great place to start for younger students who are just starting to learn about letter sounds. They don't have to know all the letters of their alphabet yet, but they're going to be listening and thinking about the different sounds that they hear in the beginning and end of words, and as well as the middle of words when we get to longer words like 3-letter words. So to get started, all you're going to need at home is just a marker or a pencil and a piece of blank paper where you can draw something that looks like this. It's just 3 different squares drawn out on a box, and these are called Elkonin boxes. And you're also going to need something to use as tokens. So I've got pennies here today. You can use anything you want, teeny tiny toys, ripped up pieces of colored paper, anything small that you can easily grab and move with your fingers. So let's get started. To start out, we're going to use both real words and nonsense words. And the reason for that is we really want students to be thinking about the different sounds, not worrying so much about how to spell them. And sometimes when we use real words, students can be struggling to try to spell the words correctly, whereas in this stage, we just want to be thinking about what the words sound like and what the different sounds within the words sound like, so we can break them apart and learn that way. So we're going to start with some 2-letter words, and I'm going to use some nonsense words. So for example, I'll tell a student, say op. Student will repeat back to me, op. I'll get them to move the sounds that they hear to represent the word op in the Elkonin box. So they'll go, ah, p. I'm going to get them to touch and say those sounds again, ah, p, and then blend it together all into one word, op. So again, the student will go, op, op, op. They'll touch and say each sound, and then they'll blend it together, showing that they can also blend those sounds as well as segment them. Let's try that with a few different words. Say thaw. Aw. Touch and say, aw, blend together, thaw. What about ip? Ip, ip, ip. Let's try that with 3-letter words. It's going to be the same concept, but now you're moving 3 sounds and blending those together rather than 2. It's best to start with words that have short vowel sounds because those are easier for students to be thinking about when they're just starting out with these activities. So let's try a few together. Try fip. Ip, ip, fip. Try thawed. Odd, odd, thawed. Try fizz. Is, fizz. Now, one tip when we're thinking about segmenting words correctly, we don't want to over-enunciate. A common mistake is to really over-enunciate and hear something at the end of a sound called a schwa. Schwas are something that we want to avoid. So we want to stop saying things like pa, ta. We don't want to hear that UH sound on the end of a word. We want to just enunciate just the sound. P, t, d, m. We don't want to end ma or pa because it leads to some bad habits later down the road. All right, now that we've got that with, this is what I would call level 1. So thinking about short vowel sounds, just 2 consonant sounds on the beginning and the end of a word, or just working with 2-letter words, whether they're real words or not. I'm gonna move to what I call level 2, and that's when we start to think about blending sounds, long vowel sounds, and digraphs. And I'm gonna show you a little bit about what that might look like. So often at the beginning of words, sometimes at the end, we see sounds called blends. Sounds like st, cool, fur, or sp. And it's important that as we're breaking down these sounds, we learn that this isn't one sound together. This is actually 2 sounds separate. And we want to separate them like that when we're using our Elkonin boxes. So even though when we get familiar with reading words, we would pronounce this as sp as we're reading, we want to break that down into 2 words when we're, or 2 sounds when we're using our Elkonin boxes. So for example, sp, 2 sounds. In level 2, we're also going to use something called a digraph. And a digraph is different than a blend because it takes 2 letters together, but it only makes 1 sound. So when we're using our Elkonin boxes, these are going to only make 1 sound. W, ch are example of digraphs. And they can show up at the beginning or an end of a word. Sh are also examples of digraphs as well as the PH sound for. We're also going to use some more complicated vowel sounds. Sometimes in level 2, you might still just hear short vowel sounds like a, I, ah, but you're also going to hear some long vowel sounds and some more difficult vowel sounds. For example, ow, ooh, or oi, just to name a few. So now let's get started with some level 2 words. For level 2, I'm going to use Elkonin boxes that have 5 boxes instead of just 3, because we have more sounds to think about now. So I'm also going to need 5 different counters as well. So sometimes in level 2, we might hear 3 sounds, we might hear 4 sounds, or we might even hear 5 sounds. Let's give it a shot. Try Fache. Sh. Sh. Fache. Now Fache has a digraph at the end, which is 2 letters that make 1 sound. So we only, when we listen to it, we only hear 1 sound. Sh. So that's why there's only 1 marker in 1 individual box, rather than separating that SH out at the end. Let's try a few more. Let's try one with a blend at the beginning that needs to be separated into 2 distinct sounds. Let's try Frim. Frim. So if that says Frim, let's try Frith. Notice that digraph just is 1 sound again. Frith. Let's try some with some more complicated vowel sounds. How about Froim? Oi, oi, Freud. What about shul? Sh, oo, ol, sh, oo, ol, shul. What about krish? Sh, sh, krish. We'll try some with long vowels now. Stame. Stame. We know from spelling that stame might have an AI in the middle, or it might have an E at the end. But for this activity, we're just listening to the sounds. We're not worried about how many letters we can envision. In fact, we don't want to be envisioning spelling at all. We just want to be listening and participating orally and through hearing. I'll now show you how you can do this with older students or students who have further developed their reading skills. They might know some prefixes, some suffixes. They might be able to break down larger words into chunks of sounds, or they might have some knowledge of Greek or Latin roots that we use at the beginning or end of words to be able to break down sounds into chunks. So you can also do this as a chunking activity with larger vocabulary words, or helping students to break down larger words into different syllables. So for example, if I think of the words thundering, communication, and fascinating, we can use Elkonin boxes as well to be breaking down larger multi-syllable words to help students break them down and read them together. Let's try a few. This would be a level 3 activity. Thundering, 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 thundering. Communication, 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 communication. Fascinating, 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 fascinating. As students develop in these skills, you can start putting letters to them. You can start using letter tiles, or you can start having letter cards, or having students try to spell the words. But in the beginning, we really want to be working with those phonemic awareness skills, breaking down the sounds that we can hear and that we can say orally. Thank you for coming to my session. This was just a brief introduction of how we can use Elkonin boxes to help students with phonemic awareness activities that focus on segmenting and blending sounds together. Stay tuned for more videos. Take care.